Welcome to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 100.1. The Answer, the best of news talk, conservative news talk around the entire Pikes Peak region. But you know what we do here? We stop. We stop in the middle of the day, Monday through Thursday, where we have these great national hosts on Salem that, do a great job. I mean, being between Hugh Hewitt and Larry Elder, what an honor to be able to do that. But, we're better than they are at covering the Pikes Peak region. They might do something here occasionally, maybe if we, something really crazy happens here. But otherwise, what do they care about our, city council elections that are happening right now, or, what's going on in our school systems or with our businesses, or the fact I just got in the next segment mention real quick that there's a fire down by the airport. And we're not really like breaking headline news here. That's not what we do. But that's the kind of stuff that you can do on local radio, or like we did a few weeks ago when there were 5-6 people running to be the new chair of the El Paso County Republican Party. We did a forum live on the air. Like, that's the kind of stuff that local radio can do. And what we can also do is we can keep our news people accountable. Because if I tell you something that happened at a meeting and I make stuff up, or I, skew, not that I would ever do this, but I'm saying like a news person would do, I skew the narrative to a way I want, you're going to go, hey, Chaim, I was at that meeting. That's not what happened. And pretty soon I'll get run out of town, as I should, if I'm the person or one of the people that is trusted to bring news, real journalism here. I should be. So when we do local news, local talk, local coverage, local journalism, it solves a lot of the problem, which is putting trust back into the system, because I live here, right? You live here. We care about what goes on here. We're not here to just give you information and get a paycheck. It's to put out information that actually gives you the opportunity to live your life the way that you want to. And so that is proper journalism. That's what we're seeking to reestablish, at least here in our little part of the world. Wouldn't that be great that we understand what that is? And so with our citizen journalist model, we invite you to take part in it as a listener, as you are right now, hopefully as a fan, which means you just tell people, hey, have you heard about The Peak? They've been on for like the past year. They got some really great shows. And this guy, Chaim Goldman's a little nuts, and he says stuff other people don't. And he also brings like other people on and lets them host the show and bring on reports. And like, this is like our local, community news station. And I'm really excited about that, obviously. It's why I started this, and I've been wanting to start it many years before. And I'm so happy that you're here. So be a listener, be a fan, meaning you tell other people about it, and also about our 200 plus podcasts that are on our website, thepeak.news, but really becoming a citizen journalist. We have a citizen journalist class going on right now. It's full up, 12 great students in it, learning about effective storytelling, ethical journalism. We're going to give them some tech training on the equipment here this coming Monday, and we're going to credential them to be official reporters and work with us to tell the news. And you can do that too. So go to thepeak.news, sign up for that, or maybe you want to be a guest. Well, we're always looking for great guests. So all that to say, this is your news. If you're willing to say the quiet stuff out loud, that's the only thing that we require. If you're going to come on here, you got to be someone who doesn't hold back. You're going to say what's on your mind. You're going to bring out the truth as you know it, and you're going to do it, well, for your own sake, but, because it's good to talk, but for the sake of those in our region. Well, today is Media and Education Day, and I have on the program today a good friend of mine, Dave Sheets, who is the founder and president of Believers Book Services, and he has over 30 years in the professional publishing industry. His current his company does self-publishing and helps authors write books and publish books and promote books. And so we're going to be talking today about how to get your book written, published, and promoted, and also why having a book is so important in almost any kind of business. It's really, really interesting. So Dave Sheets, welcome to the Peak.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's great to have you here. And I'll say full transparency, as we always do, Dave And Believer Book Services is a sponsor of The Peak. And thank you, Dave, for doing that. Dave came alongside this quite a while ago and supports us through the advertising. And you've heard his ads on here if you've been listening to us. And definitely, if you're even thinking about publishing a book, we want you to hook up with Dave on that. So when we come back, well, we have headlines including that there's an anti-capitalist newspaper that's now on the western slope in Colorado. Dave's going to be talking throughout the program about how to write book, how to publish a book, and really to motivate you to think about that, because I think we all have a book in us, don't we, Dave?
Absolutely.
You're listening to The Peak. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. Get ready to write. We'll be right back. Cool. Excellent. Okay, we got 4 minutes, and I got to make sure I have the news items here. I left the articles.
Oh, I have some.
Oh, you do? Okay. Are we streaming? Yeah. No,
those were the only ones left.
This was the discard file.
Okay.
We're up? Okay.
How far away were you from the mic when you were talking there?
Inch or two? Too close? Too
No,
far?
no.
I'm basically right here.
Okay. I'm gonna move it a little bit more that way. So
Oh.
you're kind of like talking
Over it.
probably on like the corner.
Gotcha.
Right there. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Cool. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we got 2.5 minutes.
What's that?
We got 2.5 minutes.
Okay.
We got to review these news articles. Okay, I printed that. Come on. Already had it. Okay, back in a minute. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer, and it is Media and Education Day here on the Peak. And this is our headline segment, and I'll reintroduce our guest and co-host for the hour in a moment. But I wanted to do a shout out. We have new sponsors coming on. We're getting their commercials ready. It takes a little time to get them through production, but you know they're already a sponsor, so we do these on-air reads. So Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. This is the gym franchise of Floyd Mayweather, Money Mayweather, and it's the only one in Colorado Springs. It's a high-energy and fun group workout experience that will increase your fitness levels while building your strength and confidence. It's over at Prominent Point off of Powers, and thank you so much to Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. They just opened a few months ago, and so go check them out. If you like a boxing workout, I really like a boxing workout, and in fact, as part of this advertisement is an endorsement. I'm going to start working out there and track my progress on the radio. So I'll just tell you I'll just describe how massive I'm getting on a daily basis. No, you might be able to tune in. Actually, we stream on Facebook, so you can watch my progress. Well, we're doing that right now. If you like to watch us here on the radio, you can go to our Facebook page, the Peak Media, the Peak News Media, or YouTube, the Peak News for that. But thank you to Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. So we have in our throughout the whole show, we have Dave Sheets. He's the founder and president of Believers Book Services, and we're going to be talking about how to get your book, yes, your book, written, published, promoted here. So Dave, again, thanks for being here.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So we don't really do breaking news here, but if it's happening, we'll do it. And so our operations director here handed me this. Multiple fire crews from across the county are responding to a wildfire burning east of the Shriver Space Force Base. CDOT has closed Highway 94 between Mark Shuffle Road and Blaney Road. The size of the fire and its cause are unknown at this time. So if you're in the area, try to avoid that. So first regular headline, as this is Education Day, Ken Witt, who I know is a friend of mine, and until very recently was the superintendent of Woodland Park School District. He has resigned. There's been some controversy up there over the sales tax going on and other things. And I did reach out to Ken, and he's a really nice guy, and he didn't want to bring any kind of controversy, but he sent me a statement that's part of their press release that I remain a steadfast advocate for the mission and values of the Woodland Park School District and an unwavering supporter of this Board of Education. I'm confident that the district will continue to thrive under the new guidance of the new directors. They look forward to witnessing continued growth and success. Over the past 2.5 years, I've been honored to lead an administrative team that has achieved remarkable milestones in advancing education for our students. So basically, we're not getting any dirty laundry on this one, but Aaron Salt is acting as the interim director. You may know him as he's on the D20 school board, and he actually, I'm flipping through the article here to remind me what
Do you know him?
Yes, I know Aaron Salt. Okay. Yeah. He was actually, yes, I know Aaron. Let's see. Woodland Park, our RET interim superintendent began his tenure by addressing public fervor and beginning efforts to navigate a budget shortfall during the Board of Education's regular meeting. And Aaron has a role that I'm not seeing right now. And so he's stepping in interim as they look for a new superintendent up there in Woodland Park. Okay. Dave, do you have anything to say on this one? This is I don't know if you're familiar with any of these things.
No, I'm not familiar with either one of them. But if you know them and you're comfortable with them, that would, yeah, knowing you, I would be comfortable with them as well.
Well, I think anything, I mean, we have good people. This thing with the board. Let's see. Salt, yes, chief operating officer for the district since 2023. So he acts as the CEO for the district, and so he's the interim director. These people care about education. Of course, what I've come to learn, since you say I know, and I do know so many people.
You do.
you know, everybody is the greatest guy and the worst guy or the worst guy, you know, depending on who you talk to.
Right.
Everybody, if you do any, and me, I know I get trash talk around town, and I know I'm like one of the greatest people of all time. But
You are.
yeah. But no, it's just, you know, if you're out there doing anything, people are going to talk about you.
Yeah.
But I always think about that. I always go back to that line, that Johnny Depp line in Pirates of the Caribbean, where they say, "You are absolutely the worst pirate I've ever heard of." He says, "Yes, but you have heard of me."
That's right. That's right.
And so the fact is, the people that complain, the people that are trashing, mostly you've never heard of them.
That's true.
And so people that are out doing something, not to say that, you know, because when you do these kind of things, you make mistakes. You can't please everybody when you're making policy. But overall, when we have elected officials and we have boards, there's generally accountability there, at least in our area. And guess what? If there's not, that's why the peak exists. That's why good media is supposed to exist. And the more, if you say, well, you don't talk about this, that's because we do have a lack of human capital resources, which is why you can come volunteer with us. And if you're passionate about stories, to tell them. So on that segue, this is a very interesting article. There's Corey Hutchins, who teaches journalism at Colorado College, had him on the show a couple of months ago, and he puts out a Substack newsletter on Colorado media. It's like the only person reporting on media. And in this week's, the main article is an anti-capitalist newspaper takes root on Colorado's western slope. And very, very interesting. You know, it's a socialist paper. It's called The Revolutionist. And they started out there, and it's basically a newsletter. And they're going, and because they're anti-capitalist, they're not taking any advertisers, which is, I mean, you know, hey, at least they're consistent.
Well,
That's
they are
good.
consistent. They're
Right.
not paying their people. Either.
But yeah, right. Well, you know, not that we do here. We hope to one day. I am a capitalist. I'm a free market guy. But they have subscribers. And anyway, so Dave, you know, not that you and I, we're definitely both capitalists here, but, you know, as far as, you know, First Amendment, free speech, you know, marketplace of ideas, what do you think?
Well, I think, you know, even though I wouldn't probably ascribe to most of what they're talking about and agree with most of it, I think having a marketplace of ideas, having the freedom to be able to talk about it is really important, because you do learn from people that think differently than you.
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I mean, it stretches you. That's one of the things we've have forgotten. Part of not speaking up is not knowing how to do proper argumentation, not know how to present your point,
Right.
and not know how to listen to other people in a way. And I know as you're as a writer, that's so important. People don't know how to really communicate anymore.
No, they don't, and not being able to be adults about the conversation,
Right.
and be able to talk,
And
with
not have
somebody.
your feelings hurt,
Right,
right?
right.
Just 'cause
It's
someone
not-
disagrees with you.
It's less about feelings than it is about learning, and I think it's really important to have that sort of free speech environment.
Yeah, and so, you know, it's tough. There's that gut thing of, oh man, really, like we need more of this stuff.
Right.
But because whenever you disagree, but really that supporting that other people are out there putting out different ideas means you get to also.
Absolutely.
And that's really the thing about it. It's, of course, we all want things our way, but when you realize if there's a bigger dog, he's going to take away your rights, that's where we all start tightening up on that. So lastly, we have about a minute left. D11 school district adopts policy detailing use of students' chosen name. After months of discussions and consideration, Colorado D11 Board of Education adopted a new policy detailing process where students can request the use of a chosen name to reflect their gender identity during their regular board meeting. So, you know, what do you think of all this?
Well, from what
Names.
I read in the article and the information that I have, it sounds like the district has taken the right stance, and that is to push this back to a relationship with the parent and the child. And if this is, you know, a family decision, then that's what they are going to stand behind. And I like that. I think pushing that back to the family rather than having the district make the rules is the right move.
And we're finding that in the school boards here. We have very conservative, or at least majority conservative districts, and they seem overall to always be pushing things back to parents' rights,
Yeah.
which is like, how do people have arguments against the parents having the rights over their children? I don't understand it. Anyway, that's me. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman, here with Dave Sheets from Believers Book Service. When we come back, Dave's going to talk about how do I write a book. We'll be right back. Good segment. Got through it. Okay, we're on page 3. So to review, because we didn't get to that part. And you have 3.5 minutes. So do you have some bullet points? Do you have some things out? Okay. So just voice, which you're doing okay with, which is a little over the top, like extra energy to carry the voice, any emotion, through the voice. Don't leave it here. Wrap it up, 10 or 15 seconds, hand it back to me. When you hear music, that's my 30-second warning track. Okay. So finish up, bring it back. During this, I'll give you, you'll have about 4 minutes. So I'll give you 3, 2, 1, and this is 30 seconds. So that gives you enough time to put a final chapter on it. And if at any point, not during this, but later on, I hold up a finger or two, that's a 1 or 2 minute budget of saying, hey, I just asked you a question, or we're in the middle, take another minute with that, or, get so that we can get in a rhythm where you're handing it back to me and we're clicking through the questions. Okay. So, and that's it. And otherwise, we're already doing it. Good Talk Radio is just listening. It's voyeuristic. People having a fun conversation, and you're listening. And so
good.
Okay, cool. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, no, thanks for the opportunity.
And a lot. And we're on. And we're never completely off the air because we're on. We now stream on Facebook. Last year we've added that, so people get a little behind the scenes look at what we're doing if they're interested. And a lot going on. I had another meeting today with the 11 school district about teaching journalistic ethics come the fall semester, and it's going to be, we're going to be offered to the public school students, to homeschool students, and they're going to put in, it looks very favorable, they're going to put a radio and podcasting studio at Wasson campus where I'm teaching. So we won't have to come back here. We can actually broadcast the show from there, give them podcasting booths to do their own work, bring in homeschoolers and public schoolers, teach them ethics, teach them how to do production, and they're actually on the air. And Chris Gould, our GM, I was talking to him about this, and he said, hey, if you want to make up some extra 25-minute programs, we'll like run them at night and stuff. I said, like best of? He said, no, like new content to give these people like a AA ball, like a minor league thing that isn't the main show, but something that will actually get at least a play on the air. So I think we're going to design one show that's going to be like Peak Extra with longer interviews or reports we can't get to with our investigative journalist. And then another would be like the high school show that the high schoolers put out each week. And it would play like, on the weekends or evening, during bonus time here. So exciting. Like it's like the vision's coming together. We got our citizen journalist class that's they'll finish up at the end of the month, get credentialed, Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. And, our big headline is, no, we're not here to lie to you. There's too much competition. We could never survive if our job was to lie to you. Too much of the media is doing that, either by commission or omission. And our job here is it's not to bring you the truth. Because I can't decide how you take everything in and decide whether something is true or not. But if I can give you good information, we here can give you good information with proper context because of the history of it, what you need to know, then you can make good decisions. You be the purveyor of truth. We'll bring you the materials for that. And if we can realize that that's what media is supposed to do and demand that from them, guess what? We can build trust back into the media. We can take it back. And we need it. It's not like we can go around without having good information. How are we supposed to live? So we have on the show today, Media and Education Thursday, founder and president of Believers Book Services, Dave Sheets. And in this segment, Dave is going to give you, a little tutorial on how to write a book. How do I write a book? Dave Sheets.
Well, as you know, I'm in the business of helping authors and write and publish books. You and I've had this conversation. Yeah,
Yeah.
you wanted to write a book, and you're
Yeah.
thinking about it, and so we've talked through a lot of these things already. We encourage everyone, business leaders, coaches, consultants, pastors, speakers, to write. In fact, there are many valid reasons for anyone to write a book. It's not an easy process, though, and I mean we've talked about this. But it can be done if you understand how to do it, and it's kind of like eating an elephant. You do that one bite at a time and break down the process. So there are really three things that we talk about a lot with our authors. Number one, you got to understand your audience, who you're speaking to, and so a lot of times we're asking people to picture that person sitting across the desk from them that they're writing to, so that they can really understand who that is. How, what's their education, what's their background, what's their age, what are their experiences, and so forth. The second thing is understanding their goals. So the author understanding, why am I writing this book? Is it for altruistic reasons? Am I trying to heal from something myself? And do I want somebody else to learn from those lessons? Do I want to teach something to people? Are there financial goals? Some people are saying, I want to use a book as a marketing tool for my business and or for my nonprofit to, maybe get donors excited about what we're doing and so forth. Is it a relational reason, so forth? So understanding the process, really right brain versus left brain. And this is how we teach this. And I got this from one of my business partners who's written hundreds of books. And so what he talks about is, creating a more right brain activity is the first thing that you do. And that is you just start writing. And so we encourage people, find that 1 hour, half hour, everyday segment that they can dedicate to this, including weekends, and build a habit around it. So that right brain is every day write and just write. You're not going back and fixing things. You're not going back and looking at punctuation and spelling and so forth and so on. You're writing and getting everything on paper. A good nonfiction book might be 50,000 words. And so if you can do 500 words a day, you can do the math. It's going to be about 100 days, and you are finished with your first draft of your manuscript. But just write. Get everything out. Don't worry about some of the things that you want to go back and quote unquote fix in that. Then the second part of that is the editing process, which is more of a left brain activity. And that is that, looking at that first draft, which typically is for you as the writer, and then starting on that second draft, which is now for the reader. What do you want to teach them? What do you want to show them? And that's when you go back and you look at punctuation and spelling and all of the different structures. So you should consider rewriting and editing 3 to 4 times during the process. And then the last thing you need to do is to find your team. And because once you get that manuscript written, you're not published yet. You got to finish it out. So that's really how we encourage authors to start the process, is to break it down and just be methodical with it to finish their manuscript.
I found it interesting. Ernest Hemingway is certainly considered one of the best writers of all times in the English language, and known to be an incredibly undisciplined person, had a rule of writing like a page a day.
Yeah.
And so between all of his drinking and all of his womanizing,
right.
he got himself to sit down and write some of the best things that have ever been written. So,
Yeah.
so I think the rest of us probably have a little bit more discipline than that. We can do it too. You're listening to The Peak. We're here with Dave Sheets from Believers Book Services. When we come back, we're going to be talking about, more publishing. Cool. Good segment. Okay, this is only 2 minutes.
Okay. The timing wasn't too bad.
No, it was great. You nailed it. You're good. Your voice, your inflection's good. You're very expressive. You do good radio. Do you podcast?
I don't. I thought about it.
I think
Marcus and I have thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys would be a good tag team. Podcast and could, yeah, I mean, you know how to do this. Get it out there.
Well, you've been a good coach. We've had some practice.
Well, thanks. We've done 200 shows here.
That's amazing.
in just a year, right? When you do it 4 times a week, 50 weeks. And so I'm coming, I don't know exactly because I had some guest hosts, but I'm in that area now where I've done 200, but we hit the overall 200. It's exhausting. I'm ready to train other people up. That's what I'm doing now. Yeah, I did. I'm having more and more guest hosts. I had Stan Vanderwerf, who's a former county commissioner, he hosted on Tuesday. And then I'm taking Kim for a little break of a vacation. So we're going to have a bunch of guest hosts in here. But these citizen journalists, once they get through the course, I'm going to throw them all into the crucible here.
Arena.
Because I see people, they go from like, to the end of the hour. They're like, well, that was exhilarating. And it's just, you got to do it. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. And yes, our job is to rock this town. When I was planning this show like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I realized I could use broadcast music. If you're listening to the podcast, we don't have the rights to put it on the podcast, but that's why you should listen to the show, because we're here at a radio station with a license. And I remembered that song of the Stray Cats.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. This is perfect. It's got a great beat. So that's become, one of the themes. Of course, saying the quiet stuff out loud is our overall theme, and we commit to keep doing that. Another new sponsor that I think the commercial's done, but we got to get it into rotation. There's a lot that goes on to put on a program, just like writing a book, putting on a program. Wow Family Chiropractic. And Dr. John Davis, a good friend of mine, love chiropractic. My wife was actually trained as a chiropractor and really, really believe in it. Wow Family Chiropractic, specializing in family care, personal injury, spinal and knee decompression. I've had the decompression. It really helped me a lot. And shockwave therapy. Our family chiropractor at wowfamilychiropractic.com. So here on the Peak today, it's Media and Education Day, and we're talking about how to write, publish, and promote your book. Like, do you have a book in you? I think most people do. People have stories, but it's very intimidating to put a whole book together. And Dave Sheets of Believers Book Services, who is Believers Book Services, you hear their commercials here, has also been in and is a sponsor of the Peak News. Dave Sheets been in the publishing industry for over 30 years, and he helps people go through the process depending on how much they want to write, how much they want to do. It's very flexible. It's a whole program, but it's to handhold people through the process in order to write their own book. So once again, Dave, thanks for being on the program.
Thank you.
So give us your background in publishing. Did you grow up wanting to be a writer, wanting to be in this industry?
I had no idea what this industry was growing up. I was a reader, so I love reading. And going through college and ending up finally graduating with a journalism degree, I was exposed to a lot of this. I was exposed to news writing and all of the different things that happened around broadcast and written news producing. And then I was hired by a publishing company, and I didn't know anything about it, entered into it and started learning about the process and fell in love with it. And so I spent the early part of my career working in traditional publishing, where authors get contracts and all of those types of things. And then I've worked in book printing and book distribution, book retail. And all of that led me then to being where I am today. And that is working with independent authors on their book projects and helping them with a professional team to produce that book.
And just what are some of the companies you've worked for?
So I started with Tyndale House Publishers in Chicago. They published the Left Behind series, if you're familiar with that. I worked with Multnomah Publishers. Their big book everybody knows about is Prayer of Jabez. I worked for Harvest House Publishers also in Oregon. And then I worked on some startup companies, mainly around Bible projects, interestingly enough.
So you've worked with that within the Christian publishing industry, and that's where you focus on. That's what Believers, if you didn't, what I believe in, Christian book publishers. But overall, is it much different other than the content? Is it really that much different as an industry, the Christian publishing versus just the general publishing industry?
No, the industry would be very similar. I think the content is what sets it apart. In some cases, I think it's also authors who are coming from a particular worldview that make up the bigger difference.
Right, because a lot of it's not that the content is Christian, but they are.
Right, right. They want to have somebody that understands where they're coming from that can help them produce that or edit it or so forth. Absolutely.
So something that I learned from you, and I figured this because if you ever go to conferences, and they always have that speaker that's there, and then there's everybody gets a book. And Dave let me know that that's actually how the speaking industry works. So talk about the importance of having a book, not just if you have the passion to write a book, but that almost any business, how it opens doors.
Well, it really does. We see three things happen with business leaders, business people, coaches, consultants, speakers, and that is number one, having a book gives them immediate credibility that somebody else doesn't have. The second thing is that it lends to speaking in front of larger audiences and building your platform. You hear that word a lot. And then the third thing is that it helps to open doors, especially if you're a business and you're looking for new clients.
And actually, in some ways, like you have to have a book. That's part of how you get paid, right? They buy a ton of books from you when they invite you to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be part of your speaking fee, and certainly it's that large business card that you get in front of people that culturally we just don't throw away.
Right. So if you want to be in the speaking industry, like you want to be a public speaker, that's also something to think about. But it's just really cool to have a book. One of these days I'll do that. So what holds people back from writing a book?
We see a number of different things, but the main ones are, number one, I don't have any time. Business people are busy. They're running a business. And so that would be a big one. Another one is that they don't feel qualified maybe to write. Maybe they don't like to write. I'm kind of in that category. I've been in this industry for 30 years. I really don't love writing. I do it. And then the third thing would be that they may not feel qualified because they may be a non-English speaker first. Their English language is a second language for them. And so what we find is a lot of times people need help. So whether it's ghostwriting, whether it's coaching, whether it's coming alongside with a developmental edit to help them to craft that content, those are things that are really become important to them.
So how do you coach people through that if someone comes to you and they're interested, whether they're a business owner or maybe they just, have a book in them, but they're intimidated, how do you work with them?
So the best coaching structure for us is taking about 24 hours with them on a weekly basis. We do Zoom calls and hold them accountable, help teach them about the writing process, help teach them about the editing process, the structure of books, and what makes a book better than, a good book better than a poor book. So that sort of thing, a lot of times people need somebody to walk alongside them to make it happen.
And so is it generally you coach people from all over?
We do, all over the world.
So what are some of the things that when people are putting a book together that they wouldn't think of? They just figure, because I think most people figured out by now, like recording your voice, like if you don't want to write, right, that you can record it, you can get it transcribed. Now with AI, the transcriptions are like, they're amazing. They're sickly amazing.
Right.
So you don't even have to necessarily type it out. But what are some of the things that are just people are blindsided by if they don't, know somebody that does this professionally?
Well, number one, it takes a team. And for most authors, new authors, they have no idea the amount of steps that go in the process to professionally publish a book. And there is true self-publishing. I mean, there are platforms where you can literally try to learn everything, and authors can do that, and they get out there and and put a book out and it's published. But the big one is really the amount of work that it takes to professionally do it, the professional editing, the professional design. Those two things are critical in the process.
So there's obviously this big professional publishing industry that people know about where, where people get advances and all kinds of stuff and they handle everything. And then all the way down to, where you get one-offs on Amazon and things like that.
Yeah.
If is it even really possible for people, new authors to get published by these big houses, or do they have to go the self-publishing route?
No, absolutely. New authors can break into traditional publishing. The biggest part of that, though, is that traditional publishers want to take less risk than they used to, and so they're looking for people that already have large audiences, large followings, and we call it platform. They might have hundreds of thousands of people watching them on YouTube or watching podcasts or social media, or even tens of thousands, depending on the topic. But that's where they can get in and break in. But if you don't have those things, it becomes really difficult.
And so the people that choose self-publishing, what are they looking at? What's the time frame normally that if they're going through it in a professional way, how long does it take to get a book published?
Yeah, we like to call it independent publishing versus self-publishing,
Okay.
but typically somebody coming to us or with a finished manuscript might take about 90 days.
That quick.
All that process, everything that we do, everything that they need, about 90 days.
And the traditional publishers, I assume, because it's corporate, it takes a lot longer generally.
Well, and it's driven by traditional retail too, and that is it may take 18 to 24 months, so it's a long time.
Okay, so that's another thing to consider. So we have less than a minute left. Tell us about this writing workshop that you're having up at Glen Erie, March 23rd through the 25th.
So my business partner and I started this writing conference a couple of years ago. It's called Igniting Your Writing. It's a weekend for writers who want to become first-time authors and world changers. It's coming up here just a little over a week. Sunday through Tuesday, March 23rd through the 25th. So for our local listeners here, there's still time to do it. There's commuter options and so forth, but it's a great way for somebody who's interested in the writing process, maybe has even their first book, to come in and learn about the industry and how to build their business.
Well, fantastic. And so overall, believersbookservices.com is the website, but this is partnering with Glen Erie?
Partnering with Glen Erie, yeah. So it's www.Glen Erie, that's EYRIE.org. And Glen is spelled with one N.
Okay. And what can people expect? I was actually a little ahead of myself. We have a little bit more time. What can people expect at the workshop?
So we work with individual exercises, small group engagements, workshops, and we also give, this is something really cool, is we give authors ample time to write while they're there. So not only are they taking the instruction, but they're getting time to put it into practice.
Okay, cool. So do you have a book in you? Do you think so? Do you want to get published? Do you want to, even just write it, just to get it out there, to share with friends and family? I encourage you. I've known Dave for years. I invite you to go on Believers Book Services and check them out. And it's really cool that, you don't have to fly. You don't even have to stay up at Glen Erie, although that's very nice.
It is nice.
But you can spend a couple of days, finding out how to do this, how to write a book. Go to glenerie.org. When we come back, well, Dave is going to talk about, after you write the book, how do you get published? You're listening to The Peak. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman, and we'll be right back. Cool. Good segment. It flowed well. So I have to find out what's my, but what can you, what's the topic? What's the timing?
2:31.
Okay. So,
Giving us thoughts on marijuana.
oh, really? Okay. Is that just it? The marijuana rant? The Mary Jane? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Marijuana rant. Okay. Thank you. So on this one, because I have to throw to a live segment, there's no music. So when the time comes to wrap, I gotta get it back, because if I don't throw it to them on time, then he gets cut. He has no way to adjust.
Yeah.
Because it's pre-recorded. Okay, yeah. But good. This is good, hopefully. And the Facebook Live will already be up. If you want the video, I can get you the file. If you guys want to edit it push it out for the workshop or whatever. We probably won't get to the editing, but okay. I wish on Facebook you can clip the front and back, but you can't go in the middle and cut out the breaks. Yeah. So the breaks remain. But it's cool for people when they can see the radio, live radio or whatever. Of course, in recording they can just skip it, fast forward it. But yesterday was hectic. It's probably an interesting thing to watch what we were doing in here. It was a little crazy at the breaks. But okay, we're back in a minute and a half. Yeah, so the Peak, it's working. I'm just the if these people, once they graduate, actually follow through on because we made them commit on their application, how many volunteer hours can you give? And if truly they follow through, we're talking about 180 hours a week of volunteer time, which is like 4 to 5 full-time people. So we're about to hit a game-changing thing of reporters and techs and hopefully people who can help with social media and all this stuff that
Even if it's half of that.
I know. I know. So I know. So we're about to we're really in 2.0 now, where I'm going to be able to, just focus on being the executive producer, getting more sponsors, going out with the educational foundation and raising money for that. And I'm going to be teaching in the schools, which is really cool, teaching ethics and stuff. So I just keep scrapping, to build a business and, every month just get to the next month. But it's been good. And we're getting a good reputation. People are I really think we have a lot more listeners, and they're not letting us know they're there, but I keep hearing too much about, oh, I hear that. I've listened to you and stuff. So. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. This is Media and Education Thursday, and we are joined for the whole hour. And this is our final segment with Dave Sheets, founder and president of Believers Book Services. And of course, we will finish this segment and show with Jim Miller, just a guy in the Peak rants. I hear Jim is ranting about the Mary Jane, about the marijuana, about the cannabis today.
Yeah.
So stick around for that. So Dave, in this segment, we've talked about how to write a book. You've talked about the publishing industry. How do you get published? What are the steps in order to make sure that book gets to print and promoted?
Yeah, so on the independent author side of things, it's really the same steps throughout the industry, but we work on these steps for our clients. They're our customers. And the first thing is you have to have a team. So whether it's us or some other team, you're going out and finding the right people to help you get your book finished and so forth. It starts with editing, then it goes to proofreading, and those are really important steps to make sure that the content is something that people want to promote and come back to. Then it goes to cover design, which is absolutely, a book is judged by its cover. It is. I mean, there's no way
We all do
around
it. Yeah, we all do.
There's no way around it. And so
Even the spine.
you can look at a book and say, that's terrible. It doesn't communicate anything to me. Or you can look at a book and go, oh my gosh, I love that book. And I want to pick it up and I want to turn it over and look at what the book is going to do for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so it's interior layout comes into that, creating ebooks, printing is a big part of that, but then it's the online distribution and retail side of things that we really shine in. And that's one of our specialties, is to help with that. So all of those steps and all of the intricacies that come along with each one of those major steps is an important part that every author has to go through.
Is getting onto bookshelves, I mean, it's certainly, I can't imagine it's as crucial as it used to be. But for a self-publisher, is it even something to try to do? I mean, getting into the Walmarts but a lot of these places are going out of business too, the physical locations.
Yeah, physical locations. It's less important for an author today to do that. And I know that people grew up with that and bookstores are important. And I'm not saying bookstores aren't, but the route to get into those bookstores can be very expensive. It can take a long time. And if you, going back to the goals that we talked about earlier, if your goal, for example, hey, I want to build my main business by using a book, well, the bookstore really is not really part of that. It doesn't need to be part of that unless it happens organically. The way that we set our clients up is to make sure that those bookstores have access to those books. And if something starts to happen and there's traction and maybe, there's a viral nature to what's happening with that book, it can get on those shelves, but that's not the main goal usually.
So nowadays you sort of have to go out and get the traction originally, get the book selling, and then try to get to the booksellers to pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all the marketing and the promotion and the getting in front of the right people, it really is always incumbent on the publisher. And when an author is working with us, they're the publisher. And so that author, should know their marketplace. They should know their reader. They should know where those people are at. And so therefore, getting to those people, getting them to get excited about the book, and then hopefully something happens after that that might take it to the bookstore market is really important.
Okay, we have just a minute left. What would you say to the people who go, people don't read anymore? Said by people who don't read, I guess.
Well, there are more and more books being published every day today than there ever have been. So it's a very exciting time to be an author. Again, we talked about this early on. I think the marketplace of ideas is really important. People want to hear from you and what you have to say. So I would say it's an important time to be an author.
And what's the average size book? What are people looking at if a marketable book generally that you look for people to write?
In terms of how many
pages,
words?
pages.
Typically, a nonfiction book is going to be around 50,000 words. A fiction book, a novel, might be around 100,000 words or slightly.
What does that translate to as far as pages?
So 50,000 words, typically 200, 220 page book, like in that neighborhood.
Okay. Do you want to publish? Well, you know what? Check out believersbookservices.com. Dave Sheets, thanks so much for being on The Peak.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And now, Jim Miller, just a guy, and The Peak Rants. And today, Jim is handling that topic that's always being talked about in our region, marijuana. Cool. I must be a little old. I thought he was into new stuff because they were trying to get it on the ballot, but then it didn't get on the ballot. But thankfully, he didn't say it so much in that area. I think it was that people would have picked up on it. But cool. I just have 3 minutes of commercial and a 2-minute close, and I'm done. And I'm done for my week as far as this goes. Always exhausted when I got it. Yeah, there's a lot. I'm always backlogged on stuff, but I actually got to get these commercials into production. So, but it's been good. But yeah, I mean, I like this, but I've proven, I can do it. So it's not, I'd rather hand it to other people. It's just, I'm being told by my general manager and other people, and it's known, like, people tune into radio because of personalities. So how do I make the show the personality so that anybody that's proficient, I mean, early on I'm going to be training people and they're fumbling a lit, and I know it's not the best radio, but you gotta let children fall down some and, get up and walk. And as part of a citizen journalism project, the people listening just have to appreciate, wow, like this person doesn't know what they're doing, but they're on the radio and they're trying, right? But a lot of times people, some people might go, yeah, but I want the professional guy. And I warn that like it doesn't work that way. Like they need the consistency of the host, and I want the show to be the vehicle, which is why it's not the Chaim Goldman show or the Peak with Chaim Goldman. It's just the Peak, and it was always that. So how I transitioned from being the guy that basically carried the show for a year, and the people that like the show got used to me. How do I train people, into that and get them proficient and have them become entities in their own right, and then start doing spin-off shows? And, my goal, and Chris knows, is to, half the airtime during the day would be local, because this mixture of local national is a really good mix, or maybe 2/3 national, because these guys tend to have 3-hour shows. So to like take an hour from everybody, their third hour or whatever, and have local talent that can carry their own programs. And then we can really be covering a lot of ground and having a lot of reporters and have a lot and tighten things up. We're even being told, our investigative reporters, law enforcement is talking to him and saying, you guys are the only ones that report on stuff. Like they respect that we're doing what journalists are supposed to do, which is being part of law enforcement, in a way. So, okay, we're just going to finish. Well, thanks so much for joining us for another week of the Peak. I think I think we may have completed a year in a way, because we took a couple months off over the summer, if you missed us, to do a little bit of reorganization. So while we started on January 15th, I think we've done 12 months now, which is really, really cool. So we've completed our full year, and we're absolutely moving into the Peak 2.0. What does that mean? More citizen journalists, more guest hosts, hopefully more advertisers, that's important, and more listeners, and just more influence, and more of moving into this area of the original vision of a citizen journalist project. If we have 10, 20, 30, 100 people out of the couple million in this overall Pikes Peak region that are telling the local stories, we'll have the biggest newsroom around, and think of all that we can do. So go to thepeak.news, get involved with us. If you're a local business, that's awesome. We want to be sponsors only by local businesses, because you're not going to hassle us and try to get us to, not tell this story or to tell that story, right? You're just going to respect the fact of what we're doing, but you can also come on the air too. This is, it's starting to be fun. It's a lot of work, but it's starting to be fun. And I thank Dave Sheets. He's one of our sponsors who was with us through the show today. If you're voting in the Colorado Springs municipal election for city council, before you do, get educated, vote your values, go to churchvoterguides.org. We interviewed the candidates, another project I'm involved in. We interviewed the candidates. We published exactly what they put in there, so you can get it in their own words. Definitely do that. Definitely vote by April 1st. Friday, tomorrow, Dirk Hobbs and Southern Colorado Business Forum and Digest is on at 3, not me. And then Business and Culture Monday, we have a guest host, Frank Sinclair, with host, a guest, Heather McBroom from Thrive Network and Brandon Eldridge from the Pikes Peak Small Business Development Center on how to develop and sustain small business in our region. Stick around for the Larry Elder Show coming up next on The Answer. And otherwise, check out our 200-plus podcasts at thepeak.news. The Peak, we say the quiet stuff out loud for such a time as this. Have a great weekend. Shalom, y'all.